In the days following Russia's deployment of the nuclear-capable Oreshnik hypersonic missile system to Belarus, it became increasingly clear that Moscow was not interested in making a single dramatic statement and then stepping back. Instead, the Kremlin moved quickly to reinforce a broader strategic narrative, one that stretches across geography, doctrine, and deterrence. While Oreshnik captured attention along Europe's western axis, Russia simultaneously redirected focus eastward, toward Siberia, where another cornerstone of its nuclear arsenal quietly entered motion. On December 17, 2025, Russia's strategic rocket forces initiated combat patrols with RS-24 Yars intercontinental ballistic missile systems in Siberia. Officially described as routine training, these movements were anything but routine in their timing. Mobile ground-based missile units departed hardened facilities, conducted extended night maneuvers, executed multiple position changes, and dispersed across expansive patrol routes under combat conditions. The inclusion of Aileron reconnaissance drones for route security and perimeter monitoring underscored that this was not merely an exercise in mobility, but a rehearsal of survivability under modern threat conditions. To understand why this deployment matters, it is necessary to examine what the Yars system represents within Russia's strategic architecture. The RS-24 Yars is a solid-fuel, road-mobile intercontinental ballistic missile designed to replace aging Soviet-era systems while enhancing flexibility and resilience. Capable of carrying multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, each with significant nuclear yield, the Yars extends Russia's reach well beyond 10,500 to 12,000 kilometers. From Siberian launch areas, this range places the continental United States, all of Europe, and much of Asia within a single ballistic framework, transforming geography into a strategic multiplier. However, range alone does not explain the emphasis on Siberia. The true value of this deployment lies in the terrain itself. Siberia offers vast distances, dense forests, extreme weather, and limited infrastructure, all of which severely complicate enemy surveillance and strike planning. Mobile Yars launchers operating in this environment can exploit concealment, dispersal, and constant movement to avoid persistent satellite tracking. In practical terms, this means that any attempt at a disarming first strike becomes highly unreliable, reinforcing the core principle of second strike deterrence. The simultaneity of these movements is not incidental. The forward deployment of Oreshnik to Belarus and the activation of RS-24 Yars combat patrols in Siberia on the same day constitute a synchronized signaling maneuver across two distinct tiers of Russia's nuclear force structure. Oreshnik, with its intermediate-range hypersonic profile, operates within the former INF band, directly shaping the European theater by compressing warning and decision timelines for NATO command structures. Yars, by contrast, anchors the strategic level, ensuring intercontinental retaliation regardless of developments on the Western Front. When activated in parallel, these systems close the escalation ladder from both ends rather than climbing it step by step. From an operational standpoint, this simultaneity complicates adversary planning in measurable ways. NATO early warning and missile defense architectures are segmented by range, altitude, and engagement phase. Hypersonic glide vehicles stress regional sensors and interceptors, while ICBMs are tracked by strategic early warning systems optimized for ballistic trajectories. By activating both vectors at once, Russia forces simultaneous stress across theater-level and strategic-level detection, command, and response chains. This is not theoretical. Western doctrine itself treats concurrent multi-domain threats as a principal failure mode for missile defense integration, particularly when command authorities must prioritize between regional defense and strategic retaliation scenarios. This simultaneity must also be read against the approaching collapse of the last remaining strategic arms control framework between Russia and the United States. New START, or the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. New START, in force since 2011 and set to expire in February 2026, does not prohibit nuclear weapons but limits the number of deployed strategic warheads and delivery systems while providing verification through inspections, data exchanges, and notifications. As that framework erodes, deterrence signaling inevitably shifts away from treaty-based transparency toward observable force posture. In this vacuum, signaling replaces verification. Russia's response reflects this transition. Rather than increasing deployed warhead numbers or conducting warhead uploads, both of which would indicate preparation for use, Moscow has emphasized visible but controlled actions such as combat patrols, dispersal drills, and mobility exercises. Crucially, a combat patrol does not equate to increased warhead count, nor does it signal imminent launch preparation. It indicates survivability, not escalation. This distinction matters operationally and doctrinally. In this context, Russia is not concealing escalation, but structuring it. By making nuclear readiness observable without altering quantitative force levels, Moscow signals deterrent stability rather than crisis intent. The message is deliberate. Escalation control is being maintained through posture, not promises, in a strategic environment where treaties no longer anchor mutual confidence. If Oreshnik and Yars-class systems were launched concurrently, the challenge for U.S. and allied defense architectures would not lie in interception probability alone, but in systemic saturation across distinct defensive layers. Oreshnik, as a hypersonic system operating within the former INF rangeband, would be addressed primarily by regional air and missile defense networks, including Patriot, Aegis Ashore, and early warning radar systems in Europe. These systems are optimized for ballistic or quasi-ballistic threats and rely on predictable engagement windows. Hypersonic glide vehicles, by contrast, compress detection-to-intercept timelines and operate outside established interception envelopes, a limitation acknowledged in U.S. Missile Defense Agency assessments. Simultaneously, RS-24 Yars launches would trigger the strategic early warning architecture governed by U.S. STRATCOM, engaging space-based infrared sensors and long-range radar systems designed for intercontinental ballistic trajectories. Crucially, the United States' ground-based mid-course defense system currently fields fewer than 50 operational interceptors, a number publicly recognized as sufficient only against limited ballistic threats rather than coordinated MIRV-equipped salvos. These interceptors are further constrained by mid-course discrimination challenges when penetration aids and multiple re-entry vehicles are present. Under such conditions, European air defenses and U.S. strategic missile defense would be required to operate in parallel rather than sequentially, dividing sensor attention, command authority, and interceptor allocation. For Ukraine, which lacks any strategic missile defense capability and relies on point defense systems such as Patriot and NASAMS, engagement against intercontinental threats would be non-existent, underscoring that its air defense architecture is structurally decoupled from strategic nuclear scenarios. The implication is not defeat by interception failure, but a doctrinal reality. Existing defenses are designed to manage isolated threat classes, not synchronized theater-strategic nuclear vectors. So, that's for today's episode. Thanks for watching.